Hey, my name is Drew Boa, founder of Husband Material, where I help men outgrow porn. Today's episode is a special replay from the Porn Free Man Conference, where Eddie Capparucci and I led a session that got so much positive feedback and was so powerful that I had to share it with all of you. It was about how do I help my hurting spouse? But not just talking about advice and strategies, we actually role played what it is like for a husband and a wife to be interacting in the aftermath of intimate deception and sexual betrayal. We had no idea that we would get such a huge response from people. Men and women alike were saying thank you for showing us what's really happening and giving us a vision for how things could be. So in this episode on role-playing betrayal trauma, you will get some examples of how not to interact and how to interact with your wife in a way that is mature and healthy. And this is actually the topic of our upcoming virtual retreat called Becoming Husband Material, which is all about being the kind of man who can be the husband that your wife or your future wife deserves. And this episode will illustrate for you the kinds of immaturity that we're trying to outgrow and the qualities that we all hope to develop as we become husband material. Enjoy the episode. Our topic is, how do I deal with my hurting spouse? If you're married, this is going to be extremely helpful for you, giving you skills and practice at navigating extremely delicate situations, especially if porn has been an issue for you and it has traumatized your spouse. If you are single, if you are not married, this is also going to be extremely helpful for you in navigating difficult conversations where there's conflict or where someone else has been hurt by you or you're feeling hurt by someone else. The skills we're teaching here transfer. And here to lead us and guide us is Dr. Eddie Capparucci, an author and therapist who specializes in the treatment of sex and porn addiction. Eddie is the creator of the Inner Child Recovery Process. He's the author of Going Deeper, How the Inner Child Impacts Sex Addiction, and Why Men Struggle to Love, Overcoming Relational Blind Spots. That's exactly what we are working on today. You can learn more about Eddie at abundantlifecounselingga.com. You can privately message him in the husband material community, and you can buy his books on Amazon. You can also go through his Inner Child Recovery Specialist training, which I have done and a number of husband material coaches has done, which is excellent. He's my friend. He is such an influential man in my life, and I'm so excited to be doing this session with him. Let's welcome Eddie Capparucci.
Drew, it's so good to see you.
You too.
Drew, I got to tell you, you and I have talked about this. This is very different, what we're going to be doing here today. I have no idea how well this is going to go. I mean, we could have a complete disaster on our hands, or this could be one of the best things that's ever been delivered in the recovery world, so to speak. So I just want to warn people before we begin this, that it's just going to be a very, very unique type of presentation. So I don't know if you want to kind of fill them in on what we're going to be doing.
This is building off a recent podcast episode and video where Eddie explained 10 rules of interacting with your grieving partner when she is throwing rocks at you. And we went through each of those 10 rules. And now in this session, we're actually going to role play some examples of conversations that might happen. And we're going to show you the wrong approach and the right approach, or at least an unwise approach and a wiser approach to some of these situations.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any actual, this is exactly the way you need to do it. Because again, we're not talking, this is not black and white. And anybody who tries to tell you, oh, this is the way it should always be done, or that's the way it always shouldn't be done, they're missing the boat. There's a lot of gray. So therefore, while we're going to show you some variation, that's not to say that this is the end all be all. That is not the case at all. There are going to be there's variants that you have to adapt to as you go through it.
So, Eddie, maybe we could start with just a really quick overview of what is betrayal trauma and what are these rules.
Yeah. Well, betrayal trauma, many of you again who have a partner or spouse and are going through all of this understand that you know when someone is going through the betrayal, what it does, it plays a major impact on the neurochemistry in the brain, and especially what we have the housing unit of the limbic system. The limbic system, that's the storage unit for emotional pain and pleasure. And within that is something called the amygdala, which is with the two little almond shaped things that are in there. And think of that kind of as the thermostat that helps you to regulate so you don't get too excited and you don't get too low or depressed. Well, what happens is when it comes with betrayal trauma, it's like that thermostat snaps and they escalate to a point where sometimes they do things that, later on they're like, I can't even believe I did that, like such as strike someone, go out and damage a car or throw things and break things that they normally would never do. But again, it's because, the brain has taken over, the amygdala has taken over. So that's why it is so important for us men when we are dealing with our partner that we're able to stay regulated and not to add fuel to the fire. That's the biggest thing. If you can do that, you will be okay. But the problem that we have and what we're going to see here today as we go through these rules of engagement is that men can't help themselves from throwing fuel onto the fire and taking a bad situation and making it worse. So let me just run through very briefly the 10 rules of engagement. And I'm just going to list what they are because I'm going to talk more
Perfect.
about them when we go through.
Right.
The first number one is no explaining. Stop explaining. Two, you're going to be kind of surprised by this, but it's no surprises. And you're going to be like, what do you mean, no surprises? But we'll talk more about that. Talk about validation, not defensiveness. So we need to learn to validate and not be defensive. One of the most difficult things that are here, but yet one of the most helpful, one of the most valuable tools. Don't wilt. Don't wilt. We need to learn to be confident. This is probably the biggest one. This is the biggie here. Don't let your inner child speak to your partner. Now, for those of you, you're probably wondering, inner child, maybe if you're not aware of the work I do, but you are aware of the work that Drew does. Drew's a big believer in that little boy within you, right? Well, again, as he mentioned to you, I came up with a whole concept treatment program on the inner child and how the inner child impacts your addiction. So we cannot let the inner child speak to our partner. Another one that's really important is we must see her pain because many times we lose focus of what that is there. We need to learn to communicate when going out in public. Another one, which I'm not going to explain right now, but I will later, some of you may have heard it, is walk into the fire. Okay. It's a crazy concept, but it works. And next one is your intentions versus your actions. Intentions are very different than actions, but so many guys get caught up on, but it was my intent. Means nothing. Right? And then finally, number 10 is preparing yourself every day. for what, and that is like, what is my mission when it comes to helping my partner deal with her grieving at this point. So true, those are the 10 that we have. And again, as I said, what I plan on doing is going through and explaining a little bit more after we go through our role play.
Absolutely. So we're going to do a few different role-playing exercises. This is an experiment. We'll see how long it takes. Some of these exercises will assume that the betrayer has sexually acted out with a woman. Some will assume that the betrayer has sexually acted out with a man. And we're going to start with a poll here about validation. You can answer this. How well do you validate your partner's thoughts or emotions? If you don't have a partner, you can select the option for that. It looks like only one person said, I am excellent at validating.
And there's one on the other end. What is validating? Which makes sense. So,
yeah, so we got 5 people who need to know what is
5.
Validating.
Right.
So validating is giving the other person the sense that what they feel and what they are experiencing is not wrong.
Very good. That's a good way to phrase that. Absolutely. And also the other thing that validating does, it's like, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. That's what, but you're right. So, because see, when we don't validate, the message that we're sending is, you're wrong. Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah. So let's give an example of what that actually looks like. Are you ready to do some role playing, Eddie?
I think so. I think so. We'll find out.
Okay.
We haven't, like, folks, I got to let you guys know, we have not practiced this at all. Okay. We have not done any practicing whatsoever. We are guys who just kind of wing it and hey, let it, all fall out the way it is. So,
yeah.
So I don't know if that's stupidity or confidence. I don't know which one it is, but
let's go for it.
Let's go.
Okay, you ready?
It. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Now we're talking about the first one is no explaining, right?
That's right. Right.
Okay,
which also relates to validation.
Yeah, we're going to show them the wrong approach.
Okay.
Okay.
I am the betrayed partner.
I'm so sorry, Drew. I'm just so sorry. But anyway.
Who are you texting? You have this large grin on your face.
Oh, it's Mandy. You remember Mandy? I worked with her several years ago. You met her at a company Christmas party.
You're sitting across the kitchen table from me and texting another woman?
It's not another woman. It's Mandy. You know her.
I thought we had an agreement that you would no longer text women. What happened to that agreement?
This doesn't count. Mandy is an old friend. There was never anything between us. She was telling me that her son won the starting quarterback position on his high school football team.
And why should she be telling you that? And why should you care?
Because we work together. I would tell her about our son and his athletic success, and now she's sharing.
Just how often do you text Mandy?
Oh, it's very rare. I don't know, maybe, every other week.
What? You have been texting another woman twice a month and I don't know. And do you think that is okay?
It's Mandy.
I don't give a damn if it's Sandy, Candy, or Brandy. You are not supposed to be texting other women. You're violating our agreement. I need you to leave the house. I need you to leave the house for several days.
But it's only Mandy. How many? That could happen. So, yes, Drew is very good at this. I'm glad you guys picked that up. I mean, so, yeah, right. I am losing and trying to explain about how many of you guys can relate to this, right? I mean, I'm sure you've been there. You've been in the trenches with this. Okay. And again, here it is. This is a person who's not listening. He's not listening. Because if he listened, what he would see is, ooh, my wife is very, very afraid right now. She's fearful. she's thinking, oh my gosh, we had an agreement and you broke it. And so therefore, if I would break that agreement, why would I not break other agreements?
Guys, I want you to imagine that you're in Eddie's position. Give us your best response.
And what you're asking them to do is to about make a validation, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would have been where um, Drew's saying, you're sitting across the kitchen table from me and you're texting another woman. And it's like, okay, what would be the validation there?
Okay, I see one from Paul saying, I am breaking our agreement. You must be feeling so unsafe right now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's a good one.
That is great. Again, somebody put AVR up there, and that's again, it's all part of the Carol sheet. Carol, the coach, she's the one who came up with this thing a decade ago about the need to validate, and that would be beneficial for helping, to not escalate the situation.
Mm-hmm. Let's address an answer I'm seeing a lot. A lot of guys are saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know what? What I hear very often from spouses and partners is, I'm so tired of I'm sorry. I just so tired because it almost, you say it so often, it almost meaningless. It's like, okay, you say you're sorry, but then you keep doing the same thing wrong over and over again. So how sorry are you? Versus, okay, you know what? You're right. I messed up. This was wrong. I have to go and evaluate, why do I keep making these mistakes? And then for you to go back to her at some point to say, okay, you know what? This is why. Like, for example, maybe I know what happened when we begin this, I start to panic. Or we begin this process and I hate saying this, but I actually forget about how much pain you're in. It's true. That's what happened here. Who you texting, you got this large grin on your face. Oh, it's just Mandy. You remember Mandy. And it's like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I forgot all about the fact that, this is, because I justified. Mandy is not a strange woman. Mandy is not a threat. That's the justification I've made in my
Mm-hmm.
head. The
Yes.
problem is that she is a threat.
Yeah. Right. And so it's very important to realize that when we are explaining and trying to say there's no threat, that can easily be interpreted as gaslighting. Andy, Andy, I don't know why am I saying Andy. Eddie, would you like to define gaslighting?
Yeah, gaslighting basically is when what I was just saying, you're trying to justify something, you're trying to make it seem like there is not an issue here,
Mm-hmm.
that they are over exaggerating it, or they're not in touch with reality.
Yeah.
And that's the bigger part. Is like, wait a second. No, 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 no. We had an agreement, but Mandy's not part of that agreement. Why would Mandy be part of that agreement? You know Mandy. You met Mandy.
Right. So
You're
then they
putting
question
doubt.
their reality.
Right, right. They question the reality. You put doubt. You're trying to put doubt in her head, like, oh, maybe Mandy shouldn't count. Maybe I didn't define the rules the right way. Maybe it's my problem, not his problem.
Right.
See what's going on here? That doubt, and with that doubt, that is like the last thing in the world that you want to do with somebody whose amygdala is on fire. It's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's also inconsiderate, and it actually is cruel. It's cruel. Why is he acting this way? What's he feeling?
Feeling horrible, guilt and shame, fear. He's trying to
Fear,
protect
fear.
himself.
There you go. He's feeling fear.
Yeah. I'm in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah. I'm in the
Yes.
doghouse.
Yep. I'm in trouble. So anyway, that's what we're up against.
Another phrase to watch out for that I saw in some of the comments here was, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry I made you feel that way.
Yeah, I can't keep up with the comment that they're coming. Oh, that. I'm sorry, folks. You know, that is an awful comment because what you're saying basically, what you're saying, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. What you're saying is you shouldn't feel that way. That's what you're telling her. You know, you shouldn't feel like that. And again, that is part of like kind of gaslighting. Because now you're trying to put doubt in her head of, oh, that I'm not supposed to feel that way. Did I do something wrong? Did I overreact here?
Right.
Is this again me versus him?
So
So
the opposite of doing that could be to say, your reaction is completely appropriate because of what I've done to you.
exactly. That's great. That would be a great one. Now, I would also do this. And again, this is a Carol Sheets approach to this. Carol says you should sit down and try to write like 25 different validation statements because you don't want to just have the one and keep throwing that out because when you do that, then it becomes like sorry.
Yeah,
It just becomes sorry with that.
totally.
So as I said, in this hypothetical situation, is Mandy actually a threat or is she acting as a friend? Mandy is acting as a friend, okay, here to me. But one, to Drew, he doesn't know what her real motives are. He doesn't know what, say, okay, so we met her at a company party years ago. I don't know what's gone on in her life. Maybe she does have some sort of other intentions here. But even if she didn't, right, there you go, starting an emotional affair. Even if she didn't, Drew doesn't know
Yeah.
he's dealing with. And so therefore she's a threat. She's another woman. It's at night, they're sitting there, and he's texting her. They had an agreement they were not going to do that. He breaks the agreement. Okay. But see, the thing is, it's not just the fact that he broke the agreement that is bothering Drew. It's also what's going on here with them. Especially when he says, I text her about twice a month. And you're like, why do you need to, what do you guys?
Yeah.
Creating a relationship?
So here's another one. Some validation killers. Okay. The word just.
Yes.
It was just twice a month. Or another one is the word but. Yes, I was texting her, but that was 3 months ago.
See, again, what are you trying to, what are you communicating? What is she hearing? You're wrong.
Yeah.
Or you're blowing this out of proportion.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to minimize it. And that, none of that is healthy. And all that's going to make her think is, he doesn't hear me. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Important word, guy. They're very important words.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to sit there and you have to constantly be saying, do I get it? And if I don't get it, I better figure out how to get it. And that means if I have to call some of my guy friends to talk about it, who've been through this, and maybe they can help me, or I go to my therapist and I say, this is what's going on, whatever has to happen. But you need to learn to get it.
Yeah. Should we model the
The
different
right
approach?
the different approach. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. A different approach. Who are you texting? You have this large
Oh,
grin on your face.
oh, step on it. Oh, it's Mandy. You remember Mandy? I worked with her for several years. You met her at the Christmas party.
You're sitting across the kitchen table from me and texting another woman?
You know what? You're right. You're right. We had an agreement that I would not text women without running it by you first. You have every right to be upset and concerned about my behavior. What I'm doing is completely inappropriate. I violated our agreement, and I will stop texting her.
What were you thinking?
You know what? It really actually doesn't matter what I was thinking because what I did was wrong. However, what I thought was Mandy was nothing more than a coworker when we worked together, and I've never had any interest in her beyond that. Therefore, I guessed or I assumed that she was a safe person to text.
Safe. Do you think I feel safe at the moment?
No, no, no. I realize you don't feel safe, and that's due to my lack of judgment, my being inconsiderate. It's another form of inappropriate behavior where I did not stop to consider your feelings regarding the matter. So again, I apologize, and it will not happen again.
I need to process this. I cannot begin to tell you how concerned I am right now.
So that here we are. Think about it. When we talk about explaining is nothing more than another type of form of being defensive. And there's a time and place for explaining our actions or our inaction, but not right out of the gate. Not when your partner's been triggered and starting to grieve. Okay. When you're attempting to explain, you're attempting to be rational. Her amygdala is in high gear. Okay. And so therefore, you believe that your rational explanation to your action is going to help, but it's really pointless.
Yeah.
The answer is validate first, validate, validate, validate. And therefore, even as you're explaining, you may need to continue to validate. Go back, and you saw in that role playing, I went back to validation 3 different times. Okay, like what were you thinking when you were texting her? And I went, like really doesn't matter. But the reason is I thought she was safe. However, that was inconsiderate. Do you think I'm safe at the moment? No, I don't think you're safe at all. And because of my lack of judgment. So again and again and again, start that validation.
Yeah. I see you guys responding with a ton of different great insights and ideas. Want to validate that? Great job, everybody. And also, we're not going to get it perfectly right. And even if we do, it doesn't guarantee the outcome.
Ooh, you know what? There's a good one here from Trevor. Trevor said, and this is something I see often, um, I have to get the last word in. See, Trevor, you and men like you, and I said, I see this often, need to be able to go back and process to wonder, why is that? Why do I need to get the last word in? And my guess is that you go back and you start looking at the family of origin. There may have been a time when you felt I didn't have a voice. My opinion didn't really matter. I felt like I was being blown off most of the time. And so, again, I don't know if that's what it is, but you need to be able to go back there and figure out what is going on in order so that that issue that you have, that I want to have the last word, you can control that. We have to learn how to control these things that are troubling us. But I love the fact, he identifies a problem, and we all have an issue with all of this. Somebody put powerless. I feel powerless. Mm-hmm. Okay, why is it that you feel powerless? Versus, well, I feel powerless and I'm just going to continue to feel powerless as we go through this ugly dance time and time again.
Absolutely. Simon asks, is there a line where you should not validate? I ask because my wife has always, even prior to disclosure, had strong emotional reactions to things that don't affect other people. I worry that if I validate, I'm agreeing with her perception and interpretation of reality. When I try to validate something, She sees through it, tries to get me to validate everything as opposed to what I actually.
Remember what validation, again, if validation is not, oh, I fully agree with you, and admitting to something that you didn't really do. In those cases, if you did not do something or you feel what I've done is not really wrong, which is the first approach you got with, in this role play we did. Hey, it's just Mandy. Um, you can go through, but still you still need to do validation, and the validation is I understand you're upset. I realize why you're upset. However, I don't believe in this circumstance that what I've done is incorrect. However, I can see that it is triggering you. I can see that it's bothering you. And that's where you have to stay. You have to stay there and try to get to see if that can calm down versus the idea of, no, no, let me tell you why I'm right here. Because that's what that is. Let me tell you why I'm right. But I also tell guys never, ever, ever admit to something you haven't done. Do not, because you are doing nothing but opening up Pandora's box. Because once you do that, then you got to start making up details about what got on. And I'm telling you, she's going to come back to that later, and you're not going to get the same story the second time. And now you just dug a deeper hole. I've seen this happen, and I've seen it lead to divorce because men have made, I just want to, what? Just want to let it go.
Yeah.
Or she'll be like, if you would just admit this, if you would just admit this, I would feel so much better. So they go to the fact like, oh, well, okay, if I admit it, then she'll feel better, and then maybe everything will die down. Yes, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The nuclear bomb has gone off.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
I wish, man, I wish we had time to go through all these
Yeah,
comments over here because I'm just
amazing.
glancing at them and I'm seeing like so many good responses and
Yeah.
things like that. But we can't juggle two things at one time too much. So
Before we do, there was a question from
yeah.
Luke saying,
Oh, okay.
what's the difference between validating and fawning? Because yesterday we talked about the fawn trauma response, um,
Mm-hmm.
people pleasing, bending over backwards to try to get on the person's good side. That's still
Yeah. Okay.
motivated by fear. Validation is motivated by love and compassion.
There you go. You did it. You just hit the nail on the head. I was just say it is. What is the motive?
Yeah.
What the motive? And that's another thing you have to keep asking yourself. What is my motive here? And if my motive is just to get out of trouble, that's the wrong motive.
Right.
Your motive needs to be, hey, you know what? I need to do what I can to help her, just stay where she's at now. Because you may not de-escalate her. In fact, it could be almost impossible to do that. That's okay. Again, you just don't want to throw fuel on the fire. Remember, it's okay the next day when things have calmed down to be able to go back and to say, you know what? I got to tell you, when we were having, I'm very upset. I'm very sorry that, you know, about what happened yesterday. And it, breaks my heart. You were so troubled. However, you said something that I have to correct. It's okay, but to go there, it's about timing. It's about timing. And we get a sense of feeling so offended. She has it wrong. You have it wrong. How dare you accuse me? We're going to talk about something like that later on. But that's something that, you need to be able to, as somebody put up there, obviously they've heard me before, slow everything down.
Yeah. Let's go to number 3 because it's about validation.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna stay right
So
with
we're
what we're talking
skipping.
about,
Got
and
it. Okay.
we might be able to come back to it at the end.
Yeah, validation, not defensiveness. But you're right. There's a subtle difference, and I'll explain why later on. Okay. Yep. I think I'm ready.
The tracking device on your phone wasn't working this afternoon. You must have turned it off.
No, I didn't.
You must have. It doesn't turn off by itself.
Well, this time it did.
You are such a liar. You're still in your addiction.
No, I am not. I'm not looking at porn. I haven't looked at porn in almost 8 months.
Well, you're lying about everything else, so I assume you're lying about that too.
I'm not watching porn and I'm not lying to you.
Then why did you turn off the tracking device?
I don't know. I'm not a tech expert.
Well, you were pretty good at technology when you were hiding your porn.
What do you want from me?
I want you to man up and admit you turned off your tracking device. And by the way, where were you that you shouldn't have been?
I wasn't anywhere where I shouldn't have been. I was in the office and stopped by the post office before coming home. All right. You're making too big a deal out of it.
Listen, that's what you said whenever I questioned if you were watching porn.
All I know is I'm not lying and I have nothing else to say.
So what's new about that?
That was ugly. And we only gave you, we didn't really escalate up really that much, okay? But that goes to show, somebody wrote up, go ahead, she's not my wife.
Me too.
Me too. But you can see here again, what's the attitude here? Defiance. I was defiant. It was more important for me to let her know or do know that you're wrong. You're wrong. That's what it was throughout this whole thing, this entire scenario. And this happens so much. And again, the wrong place to be. I did not. We talked about that at one time. Somebody said they wanted you to have a wig, but we decided to pass on that. But that's what we're concerned about. It's like I just want you to know you're wrong. You're wrong.
We do the different approach?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Try not to be so harsh. It's scaring me.
All right, I'm going to do the softer approach.
Oh, go ahead. You're good.
Hey, the tracking device on your phone wasn't working this afternoon. The story I'm telling myself is that you turned it off.
Oh, you know what? I am so sorry that you had experienced the fact that my tracking device wasn't working. That must have made you extremely worried.
Yeah, it did. But why'd you turn it off?
Well, I could understand. Now, listen how I'm approaching this, guy. I could understand that you would believe that I turned it off because I've done things like that in the past. However, this time I did not turn off the tracking.
I just need some help understanding that because it doesn't turn off by itself.
Well, actually, I've heard from several men in the husband material group that they've experienced similar situations with their tracking device.
I understand that you're trying to help, but do you really expect me to believe you and your addicted friends?
No, I don't expect you to believe me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the device manufacturer and I'm going to have them provide you with the report of where I was this afternoon. And I'm going to ask them to remotely check my phone to determine what the problem is. And when I get the answer for you, you can see that I did not turn off the phone. Is that plan okay with you?
Yeah, I guess so. It still makes me nervous.
I understand, but I want to say thank you for giving me a chance to try to clear this up. Okay, now that may not go as well from the standpoint of where Drew was coming with that, but that's not. I can't control what Drew is doing or saying. Okay, I can only control what I do and what I say. So, before we discussed the concept of explaining, because again, explaining is a form of defensiveness, but there are other types of defensiveness that we can engage in, such as stonewalling, lying, being aggressive. So when you're being defensive, you're not thinking clearly because you are panicking. And your compulsive nature's in high gear, and that's what you saw earlier in the first one, and you're focused on one thing. And that proving that you're right and she's wrong. And what she hears when you're telling her, oh, you're wrong, okay? It's like, we've been down that road before. We've been down that road before, and guess what? I was proven right. All those times you told me you weren't doing X, Y, and Z, you weren't doing that. And then I found out I was right. And now you're going to sit here and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong? What am I, stupid? Again, validate, validate, validate. But there's also something else, and that be curious. Okay? Be curious. What makes you say that? Or what are you seeing that I'm not seeing at this moment? Or can you explain more to me about what you're going through at the moment? Okay. And all these guys are coming up with all these explanations for why their cell phones sometimes don't work.
Well, I like the comment from Kevin. He says, tell me more.
Tell me more. Right. So curiosity also can be used. And part of the reason for using curiosity, and again, this is not to manipulate, this is just fact. And we can go back and we can talk with Jake about this also. The fact is, when you start being curious and you're making her have to think through what the questions are, you are now moving her from her limbic system to her prefrontal cortex. And once that happens, and if that continues to happen, then you're going to see her start to de-escalate with it. Doesn't happen all the time, with some women, doesn't happen at all. You have to wait until later, wait the next day, and then you go and approach them. But anyway, so that's the part about defensiveness.
This is so good. I've never seen so much engagement in the comments.
Like I said, I so wish I could be looking at this and what it's about. So can we go back to number 3 or 2? I think number 2 is so cool.
Okay. Before we do that,
okay,
I want to pause and notice that you saw not only a change in the words that were spoken, but a change in the nonverbal signals.
In
that second one, voices were softer. There was a melody. There was a slower pace. And so we can communicate so much with our bodies. And Dr. Jake was talking about that too.
Very much so. Oh, by the way, Jim R., if my wife ever looked through my phone, I'd be on the street. Do something about it. Do something about it. Fix it.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not the way. We don't want to be doing things like that. That's not recovery. So I would really strongly ask you to take steps to fix that circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
It's only, it's what's fair to her, and it's what's healthy for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eddie. Okay, next role play. No surprises.
Yes, no surprises. All right, so let's jump off in the first place. Let's start here with looking at, transparency. Very good. So let's go with our wrong approach.
Can you explain the bank statement we received today? It says we have an account with $2,600 in it, but we don't have an account at that bank.
I don't know what that is. That had to be a mistake. Just ignore it. Throw it out.
The account has your name on it.
Look, as I said, it got to be a mistake. I have no idea what this is about.
Okay, well, I'm going to call the bank and find out what's going on.
Don't do that.
Serious?
It's going to be a waste of time. It's a bank error. They do it all the time. Just throw it out.
You're really telling me to not call the bank? You're lying to me, aren't you?
No, I am not lying to
Fine,
you.
I'm calling the bank.
Don't. All right. Yes. I know about the account, and I did open it. Yes, I did.
Why did you do that? We have an agreement of no hiding money.
It's not about hiding money, okay? It's a
A
surprise.
surprise. Mm.
You doubt me.
A surprise. A sexual surprise? A
Yeah,
seductive surprise?
it's a surprise. I was going to save enough money to buy another car. You're always complaining about the car
Right.
you have, and I
Yeah.
wanted to surprise you with another one.
I'm supposed to believe that.
But it's true. That's what I was trying to do here.
You spent thousands of dollars on escorts throughout our marriage. And I find you have a secret bank account where you're putting aside money and you want me to believe you did it to get me a new car?
That's exactly what it was for.
Get out of this house. You're a liar. Find somewhere to live because you don't live here anymore.
But it was supposed to be a surprise. Okay. So anyway, and we're not going to have rest in peace. True story. Okay, it's a true story, and there are many of those. You know, so we don't have a script for the right approach here. But what I want to do is walk you through some of this. First and foremost, there are no surprises in recovery. Remember that there are no surprises. Surprises require that we keep a secret, and therefore you are not transparent. Now, what do women say troubles them more than your sexual betrayal? I'll let somebody put it up there. Lying. That's right. The lying, the secret, the lack of transparency.
That's huge. That's huge. Porn did not do the most damage. Deception did the most damage.
Exactly. And what are we doing here? See, your attempt to surprise her triggered her because what happened is that action, the action of opening up the secret bank account, is no different than when you were in your addiction. You're doing the same behavior. You're hiding something. You're lying about it because you're not being transparent. So you're doing the same thing. So now when she finds out, she just says, you know what? You're active in your addiction. And in a way, I can't even really blame her for that. Okay. We must be open and transparent in every aspect of our life. I mean, every aspect of our life. It was something that I learned 2 decades ago. And my wife will tell you today, she goes, yep, he told me everything, and sometimes she's like, I don't even know why you're telling me this stuff, but I don't care. I'm just an open book.
Yeah. And sometimes guys will ask, well, how much is too much? Like, when am I sharing too much? And the answer is she gets to decide.
That's right. That's exactly right. She gets to decide. And you know what she'll tell you? I don't need to know that. That's all right. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Save the surprises for after reconciliation when it's completed. But even then, you have to be, whether, you know what, if you do that, let's say you went to open up a bank account because you want to buy her something, or you squirrel money away because you want to buy her something. You know what you do? You go to somebody in her family and you tell them, this is what I'm doing. I want to let you know I'm putting this money aside. This is what I plan on doing. I want you to know about it. Okay. Now, again, that's after reconciliation. So therefore, she finds out and said, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Hey, I told your sister about it. You can give her a call. You need to have somebody, and that's not one of your men in recovery. Okay,
Right.
that's not the person you need to tell.
Yep.
Okay, because we'll go back to what you said. He goes, oh, I'm supposed to believe, you know, somebody else who's done exactly what you've done. So
Amen. I think this is going well.
I think so. We haven't tripped over anything yet, but we still got more to do. So who knows?
The next one is a landmine.
Hmm.
Number 4, don't wilt.
Oh well.
Whew. All right.
Ah,
I
okay.
got to get in the zone. When are you going to tell me the truth about your affair with Matt? I know it was more than what you've been telling me.
I've told you everything.
Well, it feels like you didn't because I read those texts where you said that your feelings for him were growing. You were falling in love with him, weren't you? Answer me.
I I I don't know what to say.
You don't know what to say? You told him you loved him?
No, no.
No, what?
I never said that.
Well, what did you tell him? I'm talking to you. You know what? You're a wimp. You disgust me.
That was very harsh to hear that.
Okay, guys, breathe.
I need a 5 minute break. Uh, um, yeah, we can see that this is what happens, and this is a big one, a serious one, as you said before. So, what's the right approach? And again, we're not going to give you a script. Yeah, I think we triggered a lot of guys now, Drew, with this. Okay, but let me say this: there's a way to overcome this. Okay, and the way to overcome it, and you're probably going to say, "What?" You need to build your confidence. Yeah, I like that. Somebody's speaking to your little boy. That you're letting your inner child take over. You need to build your confidence so that you don't wilt. So, how do we go about that? I'll give you a few things. First and foremost, let's go back to what Joe told us yesterday. I love what Joe said. He said, "What is your real identity?" And to have the addict label is not. For me, my identity is I am the prince of the king. That's mine, I'm the prince of the king. So you need to, one, determine what is your identity. And it could be the idea that, look, you know what? I'm not a bad person. I've done some bad things. And the thing is, a lot of the things I did was because I was oblivious to why I was doing them. You know, you guys who have followed me over the years, you know I'm a big why guy. You know, why do I think, feel, and act the way I do? And so, therefore, we need to learn. You need to take time to understand and answer those questions. Why do I think, feel, and act the way I do? Why does sex have a stronghold on my life? Because if you know the answers to those questions, you become very empowered to make real changes, and it builds your sense of confidence. The other thing that can build your confidence is looking at your effort that you've been making to remain sober, to be in community, to even engage with your spouse. Now again, not it may not be perfect, but again, what the effort that you're making. And so that leads me to the last point I want to talk about, and that is I talk a lot with my clients about little wins. And like they'll say something, I said, that was a win. And they'll be like, well, it doesn't feel like a win. What you feel versus what is real, two different things. Okay. We're back to the inner child model there, right? No, it may not feel like a win, but it was. And you need to keep track of those wins. Okay. For example, maybe you dealt with your temptation in a very positive way in the last few weeks. Maybe you discovered some insight into your path that explains why you tend to isolate. And now you know what that is. It's like, oh my God, Rika, look at this. I understand that. Maybe you've been remembering to contact your partner, before you move to a new location during the course of the day. And you've been doing that, and you've been very consistent. Remember, consistency is huge. Those little victories build up. Keep track of them. And the more and more you do, then it's like, ooh, I feel good about myself. I feel confident. And even when she sits there and says, you haven't changed, tell me what you're seeing that I'm not seeing. Tell me what makes you say that versus, no, I'm changing. And we tend to get so defensive about that. No, I'm definitely changing. It's like, instead, like, tell me what you're seeing that I don't. See, and we're going to be talking about this before. What I'm doing now is I'm seeing her pain and I'm being curious because I want to know more. Because maybe there's something in my behavior that I'm not recognizing that's leading her to feel fearful that I need to address. So again, that's what we want to do when it comes to this thing about wilting. We need to build up our confidence level. And you can do that by also, in community with your friends. Maybe that's what you guys, you talk about it. You say, challenge each other. Why should you feel confident? Why should you, feel good about yourself and what you're doing? And get validation from them about it that you can then walk in there. And again, remember, confidence isn't cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's not like, ooh, look at me, look at me. That's not what we're talking about at all. It's just that I can be there and not wilt when she's talking about the things that are hurtful to her.
Well said. I want to check in with everybody in a poll. How often do you feel shame when your partner is grieving? In that situation that we just presented to you all, how often do you feel shame? So less than 10% of us are very confident about our recovery.
Mm. Wow, that leads me to think that there's something not happening in your recovery that's leading you to feel that way. There's something missing because, if you're moving in the direction, again, we're not talking about being perfect, but if you're moving in that direction, I would think that number would have been a little bit higher. And sometimes, Drew, and I'm going to be a little harsh right here, right now, is sometimes, you know, we think that we're active in recovery, and we're just kidding ourselves. We're not. We're not. And you really need to look at that. And this idea where it says you're at a poll some of the time got almost 50%. And you know what? We are going to feel shame sometimes. Especially, with that one scenario that, Drew threw at me before, or just now about the idea, because they're going to use some very cutting words. You're wimp, this and that. But again, what's going to help, and we're going to show you the scenario in a moment, is when you see their pain, those words are not as hurtful. They're not as hurtful because you know where they're coming from with that. I just want to point out a question. Nathan said, what about when your wife starts taking things public and shames you in front of other people? That's extremely unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And, again, you can't control what she does. There's nothing you can do about that. What you can control is the idea of being shamed. And the fact that we go back to the idea that I'm not a bad person, I've made mistakes. You know what? The other idea that, hey, you know what? I'm not going to give a damn about what other people think about me. The only one that really matters, the only one that where it matters is what God thinks of me. And if you were listening to Joe yesterday, God has forgiven you. If you've accepted Christ and that have, confessed your sins and you want to move in the right direction, you've been forgiven. And he knows you're not going to be perfect with everything. God doesn't call us in front of him and say, show me your shame so that I can sit there and mock you. God calls us in front of him and says, show me your shame because I want to remove it from you, because no one who is my son should ever experience shame. You want to experience guilt? You want to experience remorse? But you should not experience shame. I don't create junk, right? And there are reasons for why you've done what you've done. And it's now up to you to figure out what those are. Going back to the why I think, feel, and act the way I do.
Yeah. And if you are feeling shame, then you can validate the fact that you're feeling it while also recognizing this is not who I am. And another thing, remember how we talked about earlier about how all emotions are evidence of love. Sometimes shame is ultimately coming down to disconnection and a need to connect. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to stay connected to our brothers in this, why it's so important for us to have that foundation of connection with God, so that we can be confident when this happens. There was a prompt I wanted to give to everybody. Imagine that you're in that situation that we did the role play about, where I told Eddie, you disgust me. You told him you loved him. You're a wimp. How will you respond in that situation?
Yeah, understanding definitely is part of what has to happen. Again, you got to see the pain that's there. And again, it's unfortunate that she's using those kind of words. It's unfortunate that she's, being so contemptuous. She's really hurting.
Yeah.
She's like so frightened. That's not the man she thought she married.
I see one comment from Jason saying, "You're right. I hurt you with my behavior. What do you need right now?"
There you go. That's beautiful.
Taking the focus all off of me, being internally focused to,
yeah, beautiful.
What
I
do you
love
need
it.
right now? Yeah.
That's a good one. I really like that a lot.
One of the tools Jake gave us in session 2 was adjusting your posture. Right? Sitting up straight, shoulders back, looking her in the eyes, saying something like, "I choose you over my shame."
Mm-hmm. Now, in this last scenario that we did, I'm not sure what the response back will be to that. However, again, all you're doing is you're just demonstrating your confidence, and that's all that matters. Remember, you can't control where she comes from. You can't control what she thinks or how she reacts, but you can control where you should be. Drew mentioned before the book I wrote about why men struggle to love. And that whole concept there is about why being sober is not enough, that we need to do more, because she wants to see the new guy. She does not want, she's not going back to the man that you were when you first got together, dating, married, whatever. She's not going back to that guy. She wants to go back to the new guy. And the new guy has to be able to transform, change, evolve. And that's what that book does. It outlines what are the 14 areas that we need to work on to evolve in order to do that. And I'm not saying this now to pitch the book. I'm saying it because, again, I want you to understand all of this, what we're talking about right now, is growth. You need to be growing. You need to be changing and evolving. We get so focused sometimes in our recovery on how do I stop doing X? Great, we need that. Because if we don't stop doing X, we're going to still continue. But as we're learning that, we still need to learn how we become a better man. How do I become a different man? How do I learn to not allow my fears to run amok, that I control those fears? How do I learn how to manage my inner child so my inner child doesn't run everything?
Yeah.
So it's those kind of things.
And that's the next one we're going to do about the inner child. Before we do that, I see a lot of responses here, and I want to say thank you for wrestling with this. Like, guys, you are really thoughtfully putting some of these trial messages out there, like, hey, maybe I could respond to her this way, maybe that way. Some
Sean says, how do I stop feeling like a failure? Go back to what I said before about building the confidence. And so who are you hanging out with? Who are the men who you're surrounding yourself with? What are the things that you're putting in your eyes so that even maybe you're no longer putting porn in your eyes, but you're still not putting the good, healthy things in? What are the books that you're reading that will help you to grow? It's about growth. The more you grow as an individual, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that is when you learn. And that's when you stop feeling a failure.
Yeah.
You got to do something different. Jake talked about it yesterday. The intention. What's your intention? All right. If your intention is just, oh, I'm going to stop my behavior, you're screwed. You are. It's got to go so deeper than that. So much deeper than it is. So therefore, you're looking constantly where what I can bring into my life, what can I bring into my mind, what can I bring into my heart that will continue to help me to evolve and transform into the man I want to be, that my wife wants me to be, and that God designed me to be.
And as Eddie has talked about in his book about the inner child, and what I'm going to share in the next session after this, is that it's not really the mature adult who feels like a failure, it's your inner child. So if you can listen to him, love him, and lead him, then so much more opens up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. See, this is the one area where Drew and I have a little bit of a disagreement with, because he's a guy who embraces his inner child and nurtures the inner child. And I'm the guy who believes that kid is not changing. So for me, it's more along the idea, the approach, and I'm not saying either of us are right or wrong. Okay. Whatever works for you. Right. For some people, it'll work that way. For some people, it'll work another way. But for me, it's like, I need to learn how to manage the kid. Okay, look, I'm in control. That kid, in my mind, is looking for an adult because he never had that adult to be there for him. I'm here for you now. I'm here. You can go sit down and let me go and take care of this in a mature way.
Yeah. And maybe your inner child needs exactly what Eddie just said, or maybe he needs a different approach.
That's a very good point, Drew.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good point. That's why I said I'm not going to say,
Right.
"Oh, Drew, that's not accurate," because I think for some people they do probably need to nurture the inner child. Perhaps they do.
So when in doubt, if you're in this situation where she's saying you were falling in love with him, weren't you? Couple of tips on that. You're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? First of all, if you were falling in love with him, be honest about that.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and if you weren't, remember what we said about validation? You can just repeat the words back. It sounds like you are wondering if my affair with him had more that I didn't tell you. It sounds like you're feeling suspicious.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a good point here before with from Jordy, I guess, who says, "But neither of you would shame the inner child." Absolutely.
Right.
We do not. That kid Although he's a handful, we are not. He is hurting.
Mhm.
He is afraid.
That's right.
We have to. We approach him with being kind to him, being just saying, look, for me, Jew is nurturing him. Me, with my kid, I am just saying, I'm giving him a sense of, peace. Hey, it's going to be okay. You're not alone. I'm here for you. This is working out much better than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, it's
I mean, I
great.
don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. They may be thinking,
Yeah.
wow, you guys are just
So,
going in a total loop. But
I want to answer one more question
yeah.
saying, Drew, how do we proceed after we validate? Well, another way that you can share your feelings, not to invalidate her feelings, but you can share your feelings is by saying something like, well, part of me is is feeling this way, like part of me is afraid to share because I don't want to hurt you, and another part of me really wants to do the right thing even if it hurts.
Mm.
Or and just kind of opening up some language like part of me and part of me is also a way to really be authentic with her without wilting, basically.
Mm. Yeah, see, that's good. See, what Drew is telling you here is so important. We get so caught up sometimes, Drew, in looking at a situation from just one perspective. And that's usually driven because we're being fearful. We don't know what to do. We're panicking, whatever it may be. There are many other ways of looking at things. This is part of our evolving. This is part of our transformation. When I can get out of my head and just, oh, this is all about me. And instead, I can start looking at other viewpoints or possibilities. So,
Yeah.
good point.
Should we keep going?
Yes, we need to keep going.
Yeah, we got more to do here. Um, next poll. How often do you allow your inner child to speak to your partner? Always, he won't shut up. I try to keep him quiet, but it's hard. Or I've gotten good at duct taping his mouth around her.
uh,
Okay, about half of you have responded. Keep those answers coming in.
yeah, I'm really curious to find out what a large majority of you guys think about this.
And if you're single, how often do you allow your inner child to speak to your close friends? Because sometimes those friendships are like a lifeline for you. Sometimes they're the closest relationships in your life. And if I'm relating to them like my inner child, like, oh, you don't love me, or just letting that inner child talk even to a friend can really damage the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Looks like most of us try to keep him quiet, but it's hard.
Hmm. It is. It is hard. He is a powerful dude. Powerful dude. And I'll talk a little bit more about him after we get done going through our next role play.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, again, this is about don't let your inner child speak to your partner.
I still don't believe you're telling me everything. I think you're hiding something.
I understand, especially since I did that drip disclosure at the beginning.
That was painful.
I can only imagine. And I'm sorry I did not disclose fully at the beginning. And it would have saved you a lot of heartache.
Yeah, but you didn't. You lie over and over to me, and I feel like a fool.
I wasn't brave enough to really disclose everything. But I never wanted to make you feel that way. And it was an awful thing to do.
I don't think I can ever fully believe you again because you're a liar. And if I trust you, I'm going to feel like a fool. You've been a coward and you still can't fully own what you did. My life will never be the same, Our lives as a couple are ruined. Our family's ruined, all because you couldn't keep that little thing in your pants. I hope she enjoyed it because I never did.
Okay, now this is where the inner child entered. Now you notice that I was validating, doing a good job of validating. But now here comes the inner child, somebody who realized that was going on. So what the hell are we doing here? I mean, you already made up your mind that you're never going to trust. You say I ruined your life. So why are you here? Why am I here? You know, screw this. I don't need to listen to this anymore. And by the way, yes, she enjoyed it very much. That's what happens when our little kid gets out and we let him start talking. So what would be the right approach? And we're gonna actually we have a bit of a small script here for that. But part of it is what we're trying to do is stay calm and see her pain. All right. So we're gonna look at the last part of that dialogue and see the right way to handle it.
Okay.
Okay. So start with me this time. So I wasn't brave enough, to disclose everything. But I never wanted to make you feel that way. It was an awful thing to do.
Yeah, it was. And I'm really not sure I will ever fully believe you again because your lying goes so deep. And if I trust you again, I'm just going to feel like a fool because you've been a coward and you still can't own what you did, own everything you did. And my life will never be the same. Our lives are ruined. Our family is ruined, all because you couldn't keep that little thing in your pants. I hope she enjoyed it because I never did.
It's apparent that you are extremely triggered tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a 15-minute break. And when I come back, we'll see if we can continue talking about this in a productive way.
That's right. Just run away like you always do. Don't come back.
I will be back, and I'll be back because I want to come back. So again, this is huge here. Um, and if you don't know about the inner child model, things like that, again, we don't really have the time to explain it, but again, you can go to innerchild-sexaddiction.com and explain the whole concept there. But your inner child only wants one thing: comfort. Okay. Well, he's not going to get that when he's engaging with your partner at this time. He's not going to get comfort. So, therefore, understandably, your kid doesn't quite understand what's really going on here. All he knows right now is that he's afraid, he sees hostility, and he wants it to go away. Um, you will know that your inner child is talking to your partner because you will lack understanding, compassion, empathy, and grace. And instead, what you're going to be is you're going to be abrupt, you're going to be defensive, you might be rude, you could be loud, you may become aggressive, you may even throw a tantrum. Okay. Because you're in a state where what you want at this time, this is what the kid wants. He wants to shut her down. That's what he's looking. So if you feel like your inner child is starting to talk to your partner, you need to take the break. And again, it may not be well received that I want to take a break, but you have to go. We don't ask for a break. We're taking one. And if you got to leave the house to take it, you leave the house to take it, but we're taking one. Um, you need to during that break, it's not like, oh, let me go just smoke a cigarette or, let me go check on ESPN and sport. That's not what we're doing. We're going to process what your emotional pain is right now. Why are you not feeling confident? Why are you feeling like you are being dragged down again? And again, it's about the kid coming in. So try to figure out who from the past is also in that room with the two of you right now. And I'll give you an example. A client of mine was talking to me and said that his wife accused him of doing something he didn't do when they were in the midst of this. And he had a meltdown, had a total meltdown. And as he walked away from that tantrum, it was like, why in the world did I just do that? Why did I get so out of sort? And then he realized, as he started to think about it, he remembered, he had a memory of his father accusing him of stealing money from his wallet when he was about 10, 12 years old, which he did not do. And his dad was in that room with the two of them at that time. So what happens is your anxiety level is increased at the beginning because, let's face it, we're in a pretty, difficult circumstance. But once the kid brings in the thought of dad and what happened when he was younger, and you may have no conscious, memory of that, all you know is that your anxiety level is going higher and higher and higher and higher. You have no idea why it's doing that, but that's because you have two worlds that have collided. Your kid has taken something from the past and he brought it into the present, and bang, we have an explosion. And that's what happens when your anxiety and your stress level continue to rise dramatically. And therefore, you have to be able to calm that back down. And in those cases, basically, you can't calm it down until you take a break and process through and try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. There are times when it's just not safe for her or for you to continue the conversation.
Right. I like what you said there, Drew. It's not safe. It's really, really not safe.
Yeah. It's also not safe to hide from her.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw somebody saying that you've seen men or mentors who are saying, well, don't tell her about these secrets because it will hurt her or it will wound her. Just keep it between you and God.
Um, I wouldn't be one of those guys telling you that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Nope. Should we move to number six? Number six, we're talking about here, see her pain. And we don't have a role playing thing for this. I just want to talk to you about it because it's just really very, very important here. This is why most dialogue between you and your partner go terribly wrong. It's because you don't see the pain. And your inability not to see the pain leads you to focus on yourself and the fact that you're feeling that you're not being treated fairly and that she doesn't understand me. You're feeling offended, right? Now, what I just told you, doesn't that sound like a child? It is, because your inner child running the show at that moment. Your inner child doesn't, I'm sorry to say this, but he doesn't give a damn about her pain. All he cares about is his comfort. Yes, somebody said victim mentality. That's exactly what happened. Now, again, that doesn't make him a bad child. He had to, at a very young age, learn to protect himself from many different things, whether it be abuse, neglect that was going on. And with those coping strategies he developed, he becomes very self-centered. Again, the only thing he wants to feel protected. He wants to feel safe. He wants to feel loved. He wants to feel that I'm not going to be in trouble. And in this circumstance, when you're dealing with partner who's grieving, he's not going to feel any of that because that's not there at this point. So seeing her pain is probably the most important thing you can do when you engage with her when she's triggered. You need to be able to see that because, and I know it doesn't look like pain. I know it doesn't look like pain at all. It looks like hostility. Because as Drew said at the very beginning, as I say, I go, she has a barrel of rocks and she's throwing those rocks. And some of them are like the size of boulders. You wonder how in the world she could even pick something like that up. It's so heavy. And she's just throwing them. So, and you're just sitting here trying to duck and not get hit. So therefore, I understand what you're seeing. You're seeing hostility, but this is where, again, you have to slow everything down. You have to have this level of confidence that you are developing over time so that you can see deeper. Remember, we talked about it a little while ago. We said looking at things from different perspectives. The perspective we have right here now is she's being unreasonable. She's being hostile. She might be even, you may be even thinking she's being crazy. All right. That's not what's going on. She's not being crazy. You need to shift to a new perspective. That new perspective is, my gosh, she is so hurt. My gosh, she's living in a world she never asked to live in. She is engaging with emotions and pain, probably maybe unlike anything she's ever dealt with before. And I caused it. I caused it.
That's
That's
right.
a very different approach versus wah wah, poor me, wah wah wah, poor me. Why am I dealing with this? How come she can't be more reasonable? How come she can't see? That's your inner child talking about mom, dad, bullies, whatever it may have been. But that's not what's going on right now. What's going on right now is she's in pain and I caused it. Now, do not go into a shame wilt with me at this moment. Okay. Well, as you acknowledge that, yes, I caused it, but I've made a lot of changes. I didn't realize a lot of the reasons why I was acting the way I was. And now that I know, I feel so much better. I feel like I can be a faithful man the rest of the way. Do not wilt.
That's
All
right.
you're doing is you're owning it.
Yes. Own your actions. And that's part of what some guys are asking about the difference between shame and guilt. Um, one way to look at it is what I do versus who I am.
Mm.
In the shame cycle, we think what I've done tells me who I am. I continue to use porn, so I'm a failure. In the cycle of connection, in the healing cycle, who I am tells me what I do.
Yeah.
I'm a beloved son, so now I'm going to go live like one and own up to everything, even though it's going to be scary.
Yeah. I mean, we take guilt and shame. What's the basic definition? I feel guilty because I did something bad. Shame, I'm bad.
Yeah.
And what we were talking about is changing again. Here we go. This is my mindset. I'm bad. Drew just moved us over. Drew, what's the new approach you're looking at that moment? It's no longer I'm bad. What should we be saying about ourselves?
I am God's beloved son. In
Yeah,
me, he is well pleased.
right, right. And he loved me unconditionally, he accepts me unconditionally.
Mhm.
That can't change.
Yeah.
That can't be. Yeah, she's upset. She's angry. She's mad. Rightfully so. Own up to it. Be a man and take the word to come. You're a wimp. You're this. I mean, yeah, let me tell you, I've heard some stuff that was like, wow, like, my gosh, lady. And we tone it down just a little bit. Um, yeah, but again, you have to remember the amygdala is on fire. And I know there's
Yeah.
some women who don't like to hear that, but it's what it is. I'm trying to give you guys a metaphor for what's going on. It's on fire. It's not working. She can't regulate it. She can't bring it back down at that moment. You're going to have to learn how to do that. And that's why she does her therapy. That's why she goes to a group to learn how to de escalate.
And it is working in the sense that it's doing what God designed it to do
Oh,
after a
yeah.
disaster,
Right. Right.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But
After
see,
being
at some
shattered, right?
point, we need to learn how to regulate it back down. And in some cases, these women who've never experienced anything like this, they don't know how to regulate it back down. And that's why what you hear very often is, I don't know if I'll ever get over this. I don't know if I'm ever going to feel normal again. This is going to be with me forever. I'm always going to feel like I am going out of my mind.
Yeah.
We hear those things.
You ready for the next one?
Yep, ready.
Okay.
All right.
Not saying anything and going out in public with her, wondering if you're going to be triggered by seeing people you're attracted to, and wondering if she will be triggered by seeing you see people you might be attracted to. You need to address it before going out in public together.
Right. Okay. So now we're going to show you the right approach. Yeah, somebody just said, "Yep, failed at that yesterday." Okay. So let's show you the way to do this.
Hey, are you almost ready to go?
Yes, I am. But before we leave, I just want to let you know that I'm at a good place.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it means that I'm at a good place when it comes to my recovery. I'm really feeling very mindful. I'm feeling very focused.
Hmm.
And you don't need to worry about my eyes wandering while we're out and about because I'm going to be focused on you.
Are you really sure you won't get triggered when we're out and about?
That's a really good question. The answer is that I've learned that when I'm in public, I have to be focused on my mission.
Hmm. What do you mean by your mission?
Well, it means that I'm focused on what I'm trying to accomplish. So if I head out to fill the car up with gas, that's my sole mission. I'm only focused my attention on doing that. I ignore any people I see along the way. Today, we're heading to the beach, and my mission is for us to enjoy ourselves, for me to read my book, to focus on you, and to ensure that you're comfortable.
Well, that's nice. I'm not sure how comfortable I'm going to be.
Well, that's another subject. But at any time, if you begin to feel uncomfortable or you become triggered, please let me know and we'll make changes. And whether that means that we have to move to another location, does it mean let's go take a break and go for a walk, or even if you want to leave and come home, okay, I'm okay with doing anything if it's going to help you feel comfortable.
I appreciate that. You're actually thinking about me and checking in with me ahead of time. That's new. But how will I know if you're triggered?
Well, I'm very confident that that's not going to happen. However, I'm promising you, I'm promising you that if I do get triggered, that I'm going to tell you, and then we can decide how to proceed. How does that sound?
I think it sounds okay. Thanks for talking with me before we head out.
All right. We go out, and what usually what it is? Trouble, trouble, trouble. How many men get in trouble when they go out in public with their wives, right? And they sit there and they say, "I can't understand why. I'm not doing anything wrong." Again, doesn't that sound like a child talking? Right? That's what it is. So we go back to again what our last rule of engagement going to be that we're going to talk about. See her pain. When you get upset because she's triggered when you're in public, you're not seeing her pain. Instead, you're like, "Oh, again? Here we go again." That's not it. It has to be okay. She's upset. She's triggered. How do I help to comfort her? Do I move her into a new location? What does she want? What does she need? Versus she ruining everything. Again, a child ruining everything. There's no reason for her to be like this. This is ridiculous. Why is she being like that's a child? Versus let me see what she needs. That you going out in public, whether it's with her or without her, again, know your mission. What are you attempting to accomplish? And stay focused on that mission. Nothing else matters, soldier. That's it. Okay. Do you hear me? Your mission. And you go there. When I go down, I live in a very sleepy little town up here in North Carolina mountain and go down to Main Street. It's a big tourist area. There's a lot of women who come here just for like weekends with the girls. There's a lot of bachelorette parties that happen. So when I go down to Main Street and I have some stuff I need to do, I'm like, what's my mission? What's my mission? And I just get out of my car, go there, go there, go there. Oh, yep, I see them. Move on. Just go. I stay so focused and I'm in a zone. And that's why my wife doesn't worry about me when I go out. And you know what? Frankly, I don't worry about myself when I go out either any longer
That's great.
because I know I'm in a zone.
Yeah. And I hear some guys saying the beach is a no-go for me. Great self-awareness.
Right. If you can't control yourself at the beach, right, then we don't go.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go. Hopefully, maybe over time, maybe you get to change and you continue to transform, become more mature and less objectifying to women. But maybe for some people, that's never going to be the case.
And you'll notice how many of these role-playing exercises were reactive, reacting to her, rather than this one was proactive. And we have one more that's proactive, and that means you can do it. You can just do it. You can go home and do it this weekend. She'll be like, wow, amazing.
It is
Right?
amazing.
The next one's called Walk into the Fire.
So let me set this up a little bit and explain this to people, okay? Because again, they're like, walk into the fire. They're like, I'm dealing with the fire all the time, dude. This is just different. I thought about this approach about 8 years ago. And basically what it came to me because I found that wives were complaining, saying he's not doing enough in his recovery. But what they were really saying was he's not doing enough to help me in my recovery. So therefore, walk into the fire. What that means is you proactively approach your partner during a time when things seem rather calm. So it could be that in a couple days and you're not seeing any grieving going on. And it's like, why is that the case? What's going on? So you go in, you ask the question. I'm checking on you, and I was wondering if you'd like to maybe share something with me that may be troubling you about the pain I caused you. Now, it's important to understand that when a woman is grieving with betrayal, that when she grieves, she's healing. She's healing. I know it doesn't look like healing. I understand, but that's what's happening. She's healing because she's getting it out. She's talking about it. You need to be patient. You need to be understanding, calm, stay present during those. But most importantly, you have to be brave. You have to be brave. And it's the men who learn how to do this, those are the ones who will see their wives recover faster and their marriage be restored quicker. But again, going and walk, the reason I called it walking into the fire is, you may get very, very burnt. But I'm telling you, in an overwhelming amount of cases, the woman usually comes back, whether it's a couple hours later or next day, to say, hey, you know what? I appreciate what you did. That you just came to me on your own and wanted to know what I was going through.
Yeah.
So
let's show them how it looks.
Okay. All right. So the wrong approach is that you're not walking into the fire. Instead, we're cowards and we focus on what we're feeling and not what they're doing. So let's look at the correct approach, right? So, over the last few days, you seem to be rather, I don't know, relaxed. And I'm glad to see that. But I'm wondering what you've been thinking and feeling about the pain that I caused you. Have you been troubled by it?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
I'm asking if you'd like to talk about the pain I caused you.
Wow, this is surprising. Normally it seems like you can't get away from me fast enough when I want to talk about my pain.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you are right, and I apologize for that. You really need to have opportunities to discuss what you're experiencing, and I hope that I'm going to be able to do a better job with that moving forward.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, we can talk. Although I haven't shown much in the way of emotional pain over the past several days, it has weighed on my mind. It always seems to be there.
And that's what I thought. I mean, I really did. I thought that's what was going on. So So tell me, what have you been experiencing lately?
Well, basically, it's the same stuff. The question surrounding why you did this to us and will I ever be able to trust you again? There's just this discomfort. It never seems to fade.
Yeah, I am so sorry that you have to go through that emotional pain over and over again. I know I've tried to, you know, tell you that I've learned about what I was the reason why I've acted this way over the years. Would you like me to try to explain to you some more? So that's what walking into the fire looks like. What happens is when you walk into the fire, you're being seen as being caring and thoughtful. Now, may not happen at that very moment, may not, but she's gonna pick this up, and you are going to reap benefit from it.
Yeah,
Hmm?
absolutely. You can do this. Try it out, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, be brave.
And she might be suspicious. She
Don't.
might be like, "Wait, is he hiding something? Um, is
Right.
he about to disclose something else to me?" But no, you're just being proactive and kind and compassionate. We got one more role play, which I'm really excited about because this one comes up again and again. Intentions versus actions. And I want you guys to come up with a response for this, okay? Come up with what would you do? What would you do in this situation? Here's the wrong approach. You don't get it, do you?
Get what?
The importance of keeping me safe.
How how am I not keeping you safe?
You promised to delete all the names of the men you have been sexting over the years. Well, I checked your phone this morning and the names are still there.
Why do you continue to check my phone? I haven't been doing anything wrong, but yet you continue to violate my privacy.
Listen, any man who has been cheating on his wife for years with strange men doesn't deserve privacy.
Oh, I completely disagree with that.
You disagree with what?
I disagree that I should not be allowed any privacy, especially when it comes to those men who are supporting me in my recovery. I need to connect with them so that we can all stay sober.
Really? Really? This is about supporting you. How did you get down this rabbit hole? We were talking about you not clearing their names from the phone like you promised.
I am sorry. I had every intention of removing them from my phone, but some of them were asking me for help with recovery.
Really?
I
Asking
yes,
you for help.
yes, I'm ministering them to them, and they're ministering to me also. So I didn't delete them from my phone, but I fully intended to do it.
It just wasn't important enough for you, right? That's why you didn't do it.
No, 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 no. That's not true. It is important to me. I want you to feel safe, but I also need to be tied to those guys. Like I said, it was my intention to remove them.
If you truly cared about keeping me safe, you would have found the time to do it. If you cared about my feelings, you would have found the time to do it. This is just another example of how I'm not a priority.
You're not being reasonable.
Reasonable. Was it reasonable for you to have spent our entire marriage engaged in a secret life where you were soliciting sex from other men? Was that reasonable?
There you go. There you go. You're shaming me again. That would be the way it should not happen. And what we need to do, there's a big difference. And Joe, why don't you talk a little bit about it? There's a big difference between intention and action.
Yeah, so a lot of times we have good intentions. For example, this guy is actually keeping in touch with these guys to try to do the right thing, to try to receive support from some of these guys, even though they've had an inappropriate past together. Now maybe they're going through a recovery program together, and maybe he feels like, I see God using me in this guy's life to encourage him, to build him up, and so I don't want to get in the way of that, but the problem is, uh, even though his intentions are good, his impact on her matters so much more. And what we need to do is take ownership of our impact, not just our intentions. And you can apply this to anything, any relationship,
but you
really.
have to be thinking outwardly versus
Yeah.
inwardly, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to that.
Right. So I did this. Here's how it affected you. I need to take ownership of how I affected you, even if my intentions were pure.
Right. Exactly. And again, this is another situation where what he wanted, what he thought he needed, outweighed what she wanted, what she needed. Somebody put in something on the chat was this idea of, you know what I would have done? I would have got rid of those guys and I would have started another group or found other men who I was not involved in an inappropriate relationship. And I would have started working with them for them to minister to me and for me to minister to them. That would have been the right thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So I see you guys giving some responses. What would you say in order to own your impact? Not just your intentions. How would you own the way that you have impacted? I didn't realize this would impact you the way it did. Well, that's still talking about intentions.
Mhm.
Slow everything down. My impact has hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah, see, the way I was using intention in that role play, that was actually really even confusing because again, it was like the idea like, yeah, I intended to remove them, but I was still engaging with them. So that means in a way, it's like, well, then you never really had the intent to
Yeah.
remove them, right? So we could understand, but that's what happens in some of these cases.
I see a response from Jared saying, I intended to clear them, but I realize now that not clearing them from my phone was another betrayal.
Bingo! Ding, 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 ding,
Got
ding.
it.
We got it.
I
There you go.
understand how this was very triggering for you, and I will clear them from my phone right now.
See, now you're seeing the pain. The role play we gave you, I was not seeing pain. Again, I was just trying to justify. That's it. Trying to justify why what I did was okay. And it wasn't okay. It wasn't. No.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You guys are really starting to catch on here with this. Good.
Great job.
So let's go to the last thing. And again, there's no role playing here, but this is, again, this idea of how do you prepare yourself for your mission and what your mission is. And this is something that you need to be able to do on a daily basis. Okay. Guys who are in these stormy relationships that just don't seem to settle down will often say to me, boy, she blindsided me yesterday. And I'm like, what? Like, how could it be possible that you be blindsided by anything? And that's because, once again, not thinking about is there another storm coming? How am I going to deal with that? Again, being in his own head about, oh, hopefully it'll all go away.
Yeah.
Remember what I said to you before grieving is healing.
Mm-hmm.
If she doesn't grieve, she doesn't heal. The problem is grieving doesn't always look like healing. It
Mm-hmm.
looks more like hostility. So therefore, you can't wait till you get into the trenches to prepare for her grieving because you're going to end up allowing your inner child to take over or you're going to
Yes.
wilt or you're
So
going to
you
wilt.
guys have done that today. You prepared.
Yeah, prepared. That's what I want
Yes.
to. Well, I just want to take a couple minutes to talk about it. We end up here right now. Go ahead. No,
Yeah,
we're out of time.
we're about to
Okay.
end.
Right.
Um,
So you have to prepare every day. Remember that your partner's in pain. You have to work on your compulsive behavior. I want to honor my wife, God, and my family. What do I want my legacy to be? And how am I going to react when she starts to grieve? You know what the scenarios are. You know what the patterns of the disagreement are. Start writing it down. How am I going to react in a positive way? And then you have a game plan, and then just practice, practice, practice.
Eddie, thank you so much.
You are so welcome, my friend. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
This was
I greatly
amazing.
appreciate it. It was. I mean, remember we were like, this could be fantastic, or like we said, it could be a complete disaster. And obviously, I think it went the way that hopefully a lot of people learned a lot of stuff. So, and thank you so much for all your comments. I greatly appreciate them, and
Mhm.
I again, my goal is to make sure I'm giving information that will help you to grow as men and also to help your relationship strengthen.
Yes, and Eddie's books are amazing for that. And he is also an active member of the husband material community if you want to reach out to him. Thanks so much for sticking with us for this extended episode of Husband Material. If you would like to grow into more of a sexually and emotionally mature man, please consider signing up for our virtual retreat, Becoming Husband Material. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you are a partner of a man outgrowing porn, I've also included a link to our resources for partners of husband material men. Thank you so much. And guys, always remember, you are God's beloved son. In you, he is well pleased.